My husband found a video of me in an adult film. My name is Laura. 20 years ago, when I was a reckless and naive 18-year-old, I made a mistake that has haunted me ever since. Now, at 38, I am a different person altogether, mature, responsible, and deeply in love with my family. Yet, the shadow of that one impulsive decision looms large over my otherwise perfect life. I wake up every morning next to my husband, James, who is the love of my life. We have been married for 15 years, and each day, I am reminded of how incredibly lucky I am to have him by my side. James is my rock, my confidant, and my best friend. He knows me better than anyone else, or so he believes. Our two beautiful children, Emily and Noah, are the light of our lives. Their laughter fills our home with joy, and watching them grow has been the greatest privilege of my life. Our life together is the epitome of happiness. We live in a cozy suburban house with a white picket fence, a dog named Max, and a garden that James tends to with a passion. Our weekends are filled with soccer games, ballet recitals, and family movie nights. On the surface, everything is perfect. But deep down, there is a secret that I have carried with me for 2 decades, a secret that could shatter this idyllic existence if it ever came to light. 20 years ago, I was just an 18-year-old girl, fresh out of high school and eager to experience the world. I had a close-knit group of friends, but none was as dear to me as Lisa. We had been inseparable since middle school, and I trusted her completely. Lisa was adventurous and bold, always pushing the boundaries and encouraging me to do the same. It was her idea to take a trip to Los Angeles, the city of dreams, where anything seemed possible. Lisa had always been fascinated by the entertainment industry. She was convinced that her path to fame and fortune lay somewhere within the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. When she told me about an opportunity to shoot an adult scene, I was shocked. But Lisa, with her persuasive charm, convinced me that it was a quick way to make some money and maybe even get noticed by someone important in the industry. I went with her to the studio for moral support. The place was a far cry from the glamorous sets we had imagined. It was dingy and impersonal, a stark contrast to the bright lights and red carpets of our dreams. Lisa seemed nervous, a side of her I hadn't seen before. Just before she was supposed to go on, she chickened out, her face pale with fear. She begged me to step in for her, promising that it would be quick and that we could leave right after. I hesitated. This wasn't something I had ever imagined doing. But Lisa was my best friend, and I didn't want to let her down. So, with a heavy heart and a sense of impending regret, I agreed. The scene itself was a blur. I remember the harsh lights, the coldness of the set, and the impersonal nature of the entire experience. The man I was paired with was professional but distant, his presence adding to my discomfort. I put on a brave face, but inside, I felt a mix of shame, fear, and disbelief. As soon as it was over, I wanted to disappear. Lisa was waiting for me, her face a mixture of relief and gratitude. We left the studio in silence, the weight of what had just happened hanging heavily between us. I couldn't shake the feeling of regret that settled in my stomach like a stone. That night, I cried myself to sleep, wishing I could turn back time and make a different choice. Days turned into weeks, and I tried to put the incident behind me. But then, the video appeared on the internet. It was the early days of file-sharing servers, and the video quickly made its rounds. Every time I saw a new link or heard someone mention it, my heart would race with fear. I dreaded the thought of someone recognizing me, of my parents finding out, or worse, of my future being tainted by this one mistake. Surprisingly, no one I knew seemed to come across the video. It was as if I had been granted a small mercy. Slowly, the video seemed to fade into obscurity, buried beneath the avalanche of new content constantly being uploaded. I allowed myself to hope that it had disappeared for good. Lisa and I drifted apart after that summer. Our friendship couldn't withstand the strain of what had happened. I enrolled in college, determined to build a new life for myself, far away from the shadows of that mistake. I met my husband a few years later. He was kind, loving, and everything I had ever hoped for in a partner. I never told him about the video. It was a part of my past that I wanted to forget, and I prayed he would never find out. For years, I lived with the secret, always fearful that it might resurface. I would occasionally search for it online, holding my breath each time, but it never appeared. I began to believe that maybe, just maybe, I had been given a second chance. When I met James a few years later, I was determined to leave that part of my life behind. I never told him about the video. He knew I had a wild past, and he accepted it, but this was the one thing I couldn't bring myself to confess. As our relationship blossomed into love and eventually marriage, my silence on the matter became a heavy burden. Each day, I prayed that he would never find out, that the video would stay hidden forever. For years, my fears remained unfounded. Life went on, and I immersed myself in the roles of wife and mother. But the anxiety never truly left me. It was a typical Wednesday afternoon when my world came crashing down. I had just finished tidying up the kitchen after lunch, my mind already drifting to the tasks I needed to complete for the day. As I sipped my coffee, I decided to take a quick break and catch up on some news. Absent-mindedly, I began to scroll through my phone. For some reason, perhaps a gut feeling or sheer paranoia, I decided to check one of the popular adult sites. It was a habit I had developed over the years, a way to reassure myself that the video had remained buried. But this time, as I scrolled through the site, my heart stopped. There it was, staring back at me from the screen. The thumbnail image was unmistakable. My heart pounded in my chest, and my hands trembled as I clicked on the link. The video loaded, and I saw my 18-year-old self, frozen in time, making the biggest mistake of my life. A wave of nausea washed over me, and I had to sit down to keep from collapsing. Seeing it again brought back all the feelings of shame and regret that I had tried so hard to bury. The fear of my husband discovering it, of my children being taunted by it, was almost too much to bear. I felt like that 18-year-old girl again, scared and desperate for a way out. I knew I had to make a decision. Should I tell my husband and risk shattering the life we had built together? Or should I pray that it would once again fade into obscurity, never to be seen by anyone who mattered? The thought of him seeing the video, of hearing the things I said and did, was unbearable. I didn't want him to lose his confidence or question our relationship because of a mistake I made so long ago. Panic set in immediately. My mind raced with thoughts of who might have already seen it. My husband? Our friends? What if one of my children's friends stumbled upon it? The thought of my husband's colleagues or even our neighbors seeing it made my stomach churn. I couldn't let this happen. I had to do something, and I had to do it fast. I spent the next few hours frantically trying to get the video taken down. I reported it to the site, pleading with them to remove it, but I knew the process could take days, if not weeks. I searched for contact information, desperately trying to reach someone who could help me. Every minute the video stayed up felt like a lifetime. The fear gnawed at me, a constant, gnawing anxiety that made it hard to breathe. The days that followed were a blur of fear and desperation. Every time my phone buzzed with a notification, my heart would leap into my throat. I avoided social media, terrified of seeing a message or comment about the video. The fear of discovery consumed me, infiltrating every aspect of my life. I felt like I was walking on a tightrope, balancing precariously over a chasm of humiliation and ruin. As I lay in bed one night, unable to sleep, my thoughts turned to my husband. We had built a beautiful life together over the past 15 years. He was my rock, my confidant, the love of my life. We had weathered many storms together, but this was different. This was a storm I had created, and I had hidden it from him for all these years. The guilt weighed heavily on me, and I knew I couldn't keep this secret much longer. But the thought of telling him filled me with dread. How would he react? Would he be angry? Hurt? Disappointed? I feared all of these reactions and more. I feared the look of betrayal in his eyes, the possibility that he might never look at me the same way again. I had always prided myself on being honest with him, but this was a secret I had kept buried deep, and now it was threatening to tear us apart. I played out different scenarios in my mind, imagining how the conversation might go. In one scenario, he was understanding, holding me as I cried and reassuring me that we would get through this together. In another, he was furious, shouting and demanding to know why I had kept this from him. And in the worst scenario, he was devastated, his trust in me shattered, and our marriage left hanging by a thread. The emotional struggle was almost too much to bear. On one hand, I wanted to come clean, to lay everything out in the open and hope for the best. But on the other hand, I was terrified of the potential consequences. The thought of him seeing the video was unbearable. I didn't want him to see me in that way, to hear the things I said and did. I didn't want him to feel insecure or inadequate because of a mistake I made so long ago. As the days turned into a week, the pressure continued to mount. I found myself withdrawing from him, afraid that he would sense something was wrong. He noticed, of course, asking me if everything was okay. I forced a smile and assured him that I was fine, but inside, I was falling apart. The guilt and fear were eating away at me, and I knew I couldn't keep this up much longer. In the gentle embrace of dawn, the world outside seemed suspended in a serene stillness, a stark contrast to the turmoil that churned within the walls of our home. I, Laura, lay awake long before the alarm clock's call, caught between the lingering vestiges of sleep and the sobering reality that awaited with the rise of the sun. The man sleeping peacefully next to me was James, my partner of 15 years, the pillar of strength in my life, unaware that the foundation of our shared existence was on the brink of collapse. That morning unfolded like any other, cloaked in the comforting rhythms of domesticity, preparing breakfast, the laughter and squabbles of our children, the simple yet profound joy found in the minutiae of family life. These were the moments I cherished, a stark contrast to the reckless shadows of my youth. Little did I know, my past was a specter about to breach the sanctity of the present. James had taken the day off to tackle some long overdue home improvements, a rare opportunity for him to indulge in the quiet satisfaction of manual labor. I left for work with a kiss and a casual goodbye, oblivious to the impending storm that would soon engulf our lives. The day passed in a blur of mundane tasks, the normalcy of my routine a stark contrast to the chaos that awaited at home. When I returned, the air felt charged, heavy with a tension that made my heart race. James was sitting at the kitchen table, an artifact of my past life open before him, my old laptop, which I thought I had hidden away forever in the dusty confines of our attic. The screen displayed a paused video, a reckless moment from 2 decades ago that I had never intended for anyone, least of all James, to see. "Laura, we need to talk," James said, his voice unnaturally calm, belying the storm of emotions evident in his eyes. The video was from a time when I was another person, naive and impulsive, making choices without considering the far-reaching consequences. As James pressed play, the laughter and carelessness of my 18-year-old self filled the room, a haunting echo of a past I could no longer escape. "How long have you kept this from me?" James asked, his voice cracking under the weight of his emotions. The shock and disbelief in his eyes wounded me more deeply than any words could. I stumbled over my explanations, each sentence laden with remorse. "James, it was a mistake, a moment of foolishness. I'm not that person anymore. I didn't think. I was scared it would destroy us," I pleaded, my voice thick with tears. But apologies and tears could not undo the hurt. James listened, his face a mask of betrayal and anger. Each word seemed to carve a deeper chasm between us, his trust crumbling under the weight of my concealed past. Our home, once a haven of love and understanding, became a battlefield of emotions. Our conversations stretched into the night, fraught with tears and recriminations. James struggled, not just with the existence of the video but with the implications it had on his self-image and our relationship. He felt betrayed, questioning not only the truth of our past but every truth we had shared since. "I look at you now, Laura, and all I see is a lie. How do I trust anything anymore?" His words cut through the air, heavy with an anguish that I had unwittingly inflicted. The emotional toll was immense. I watched as the man I loved wrestled with his pain, a pain I had caused with a moment's indiscretion long buried. Despite my desperate attempts to bridge the gap between us, to heal the wounds of the past, the damage seemed irreparable. Weeks passed, each day a reminder of the widening rift. The laughter that once filled our home was replaced by an oppressive silence that spoke volumes. Our attempts to reclaim the ease of our relationship felt forced, a sad pantomime of a happiness that was slipping away. Finally, a cold evening marked the end of our shared journey. James, his face etched with resolve and sorrow, stood before me. "I can't do this, Laura. I can't be the man you need me to be, not with this between us. It's over," he declared, the finality of his words shattering the last vestiges of hope I harbored. As he packed his belongings, each item a testament to the life we had built together, I felt an overwhelming sense of loss. The future we had envisioned, the plans we had made, all lay in ruins at my feet. With the closing of the door, the final echo of his departure marked the beginning of my solitude. In the crushing silence, I was left to confront the magnitude of my past mistakes and the ruinous impact they had wrought. It was a reckoning, a painful yet necessary reflection on the consequences of actions long thought forgotten. The poignant tale of Laura and James serves as a rich narrative filled with vital lessons about relationships, personal integrity, and the complexities of human interaction. At its core, it implores us to consider the long-term consequences of our actions, particularly how choices made in moments of youthful impulsiveness can reverberate through our lives in unexpected and often painful ways. Laura's story illuminates the stark reality that actions have consequences, sometimes delayed, that can alter the course of our lives. The indiscretion of an 18-year-old, thought to be a fleeting moment, later emerged as a catalyst for the unraveling of a long-term partnership. This underscores the importance of foresight in our decisions. Especially in today's digital age, where moments are captured and stored indefinitely, The youth must be cognizant that today's decisions can become tomorrow's burdens or lessons. Entering into a marriage or any significant relationship without complete honesty sets a precarious foundation. Laura's choice to withhold her past from James, despite her reasons rooted in fear of losing him, eventually led to a breach of trust that proved insurmountable. This story powerfully advocates for transparency and honesty from the outset of a relationship. Sharing one's past, especially aspects that might later impact the relationship, is crucial. It not only fosters trust but also builds a deeper understanding and empathy between partners. Communication is the lifeline of any relationship, and Laura and James's story highlights the necessity of effective, open, and honest dialogue. Their inability to communicate effectively in the aftermath of the revelation shows how essential it is to develop these skills. Partners must strive to listen genuinely, express feelings without accusation, and seek mutual understanding rather than victory in disputes. Communication should be a bridge, not a barrier, in understanding each other's perspectives and experiences. Laura's emotional turmoil was not solely due to the discovery of the video but also stemmed from her years of hiding a significant part of her past. This narrative teaches the importance of living authentically. Hiding true selves or significant pieces of our history from those we love can lead to feelings of isolation and fear. Authenticity in how we live and communicate fosters genuine relationships where both partners love and accept each other wholly, imperfections included. The story also highlights the importance of not allowing past mistakes to dictate our future. Laura's journey towards self-forgiveness and personal growth in the wake of her marriage's dissolution teaches that while we must take responsibility for our past actions, we should also strive to move beyond them. This involves a conscious decision to learn from our mistakes, make amends where possible, and then put them behind us, not allowing them to perpetually cast a shadow over our lives. Lastly, relationships often act as mirrors, reflecting our deepest fears, insecurities, and also our strengths. James's reaction to the video is not just about betrayal but also about how external situations can trigger internal insecurities and doubts. This story reminds us that part of being in a relationship is helping each other through these vulnerabilities, offering support, and growing together through challenges. In essence, Laura and James's story, while a tale of loss and regret, is also a beacon guiding toward a more conscious, honest, and communicative way of living and loving. It teaches that while the truth can sometimes be painful, it is invariably the path to deeper connection and, ultimately, personal liberation.